Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. As you can see, our first speaker is the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Development, and the Youth Economy, also Minister for Justice and National Security. And let's not forget MP for Castries East, Honorable Philip J. Pierre.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. First of all, I'd like to read a statement on the passing of Ambassador Elmer Jean Isaac, who will be buried on Friday. It's with a heavy heart and profound sadness that I mark the passing of Ambassador Elmer Jean Isaac. On behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia, I extend my deepest condolences to her family, friends, and all who knew this remarkable woman. Ambassador Isaac was a titan of our diplomatic corps, very knowledgeable, particularly on CARICOM affairs. A patriot who served our nation with unwavering dedication, grace, and formidable intelligence. Her work on the regional and international stage significantly advanced St. Lucia's interests and strengthened our global partnerships. She was a fierce advocate of our country, a regionalist, a mentor to many aspiring diplomats, and a beacon of integrity and professionalism. Her legacy is woven into the very fabric of our foreign policy, and her contributions will be remembered for generations to come. We have lost a true national treasure, but the spirit of service will continue to inspire us. And if that heavy diplomatic workload weren't enough, following the passing of their dad, Ambassador Isaac was left to raise their two sons. And what a fine job she did. Both followed their father into the legal field. Daniel is currently the High Court Registrar, while the other, David, is in private practice. On behalf of myself, my family, the Cabinet of Ministers, and the people of St. Lucia, I want to extend my condolences. Whilst we lost a dedicated worker and patriot, you, the members of your family, and her sons in particular, is a more personal loss, and I ask the Lord to strengthen you in this time of grief. May her soul rest in peace. We also, in fact, on a note of sadness, we also are mourning the death of an executive member and a stalwart of the St. Lucia Labour Party, particularly in the constituency of Castries South, Mr. Claudius Joseph, who died and will be buried this afternoon after an illness, after being ill for about 6 to 8 months. Claudius Joseph was he was the son of a founding member of the Labour Party, and he's worked tirelessly for our party. And I wish again to express my condolences to his family, the members of the Castries South constituency group, and the parliamentary representative for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hiller. This morning, gentlemen, as you know, and ladies, as you know, school is closed, and most of the schools are closed, and the government's repair program for schools is in full swing. And then I just want to reiterate some of the things that will happen when the new school year opens. At the end of this month, temporary teachers will get their August salaries. That's the first time that will be happening in St. Lucia. Temporary teachers will be getting their August salaries. The salaries will be paid in August. The first time that has happened in the country. And that is the government's way of saying we appreciate the work that these temporary teachers do. And in fact, many of them actually work during the vacation, and in terms of going to courses, etc., and sometimes they go back to the school to help, and the government shows its appreciation for them by paying them the August salaries. First time that has happened in St. Lucia. Secondly, we will continue to support every early childhood student in the non-government school will get support. That support was $50. It will be increased to $100 for every early childhood student. So every child who attends an early childhood educational institute that is not government owned, their parents will get $100 to help in the disbursement of their fees. So this is going to be paid to every student, every parent. Secondly, we're going to provide to every early childhood center, every private early childhood center, $3,000 to assist them in the maintenance of the childhood center. Every non-government private early childhood center, and that is going to be paid to them during this month so they can get ready for the new school year. And also, as you know, there also is a new early childhood center being built in Miko North. That is going to be opened this year also. And the budget promise of the provision of feminine packages, which was roundly criticized by the opposition, will happen this term. At the students going to secondary schools or this term will be eligible, and that is going to be managed by the schools for feminine packages to reduce period poverty. So you may recall how this was roundly criticized and ridiculed by the opposition. And just last night, another Caribbean country that shall remain unmentioned, because I'm sure you know that country because you're news people. They've done the same thing. They've reduced VAT. They've removed VAT on sanitary products. We did that a long time ago. We reduced VAT. And one of our neighbors is doing the same. But we're going a little further. We are providing sanitary packages to the schools, which is going to be disbursed by the schools. This is basically what's happening as far as education is concerned. I will be reporting to the public very shortly on the government's public sector projects. Quite a few infrastructure projects are happening. Many infrastructure are happening. So probably next month I'll be reporting to the public on the progress of these public sector projects, including Hiwano International Airport. We're going to be doing that next month. I don't know if you have any questions. This, as far as I know, is.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good morning.
So, in regards to the.
Just where are you from, for the record?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Josiah Bissett, Hot 7 TV News. So, in regards to the Early Childhood Development Project, as it returns to along the private sectors, what would be the process in which how this would be implemented?
Okay. All early child centers are registered. So that comes to all registered centers in every part of the island. Once they're registered in the Ministry of Education, but not financed by the government directly, they're going to get that support.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. To deviate from back to school and to the issue of crime, last week the opposition would have provided their policy direction for what they would do if re-elected, and that is to invest in law enforcement, to create social interventions and social programs, and to really have a cross-sectoral approach to the management of crime. that is similar in some sense to what your administration is doing in relation to crime. So my question to you is, how would you measure these successes so far? And what is the government's continued strategy to handle crime, particularly violent crime?
First of all, I want to remind you that the opposition were in government. They were in government from 2016 to 2021, and they were there again from 2006 to 2011. So the opposition, they're not new kids on the block. They were in government. I also want to tell you that during that time, there was crime. There were shootings. There were drive-by shootings, which were not acceptable, which were condemned by the Labour Party. You will never find, me in particular, or you never find any, let me speak for myself, ever been on any platform heralding crime, or been on any platform accusing people, accusing the opposition of directly causing crime. That's not my style. It has never been. It will not be. When I was in opposition, I called for zero tolerance towards crime. The records are clear. And this is why the opposition can never quote me. They can just quote what they say I said. But they never have me on record as saying what they say I said. So my position on crime is clear. I have a zero tolerance towards crime. I've never condoned any criminal activity. I've never had any criminal friends. I have never done any criminal friends that I know. I have nothing to hide when it comes to crime. I've never behaved in any manner that would cause my office to be called into disrepute. I've never quarreled in bars. I have never insulted any owner of any hotel. I've never gone. So my position on these things are clear, and this is why the opposition has such a hard task, and this is why they have to go down to this low name calling, because my position is clear. My record is clear. My position on crime has been clear. Zero tolerance. But I still believe that there must be a separation between the judiciary, between the legislature, and between the executive. There must be a separation. Crime. I want you to look at our record of resources to the police force. I want you to have a look at it. And these are not things that are being said without any proof. Look at our record of resources to the Royal Salvation Police Force and compare the United Workers' Party's record from 2006, the times they were in power, because they like to pretend as if they were never in power. They blame everybody for the fact that as if they were not there. They were never there. They just came from heaven. So you see, they have a record, and that record cannot be forgotten. That record must be, we cannot change the history. We cannot rewrite history. History cannot be rewritten. So, look at my 4 years as Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, and look at the resources I put in the Citizenship Police Force. Look at the resources. Further, go back to 1997 and look at the Labour Party's history as it comes to the police force. Who began the construction of police stations in this country? Go back, and you may be a little too young to know that. Look in 1997 and tell me whether there was a police station in Marshall, where there were two in Dennery, where there's one in Babono. Go back. Who built the southern headquarters in Vieux-Fort? Who is building the northern headquarters in Grosley? So look at resources for crime. Look at these resources. Now let's go back further. Let's talk about vehicles. In 2006, When we came, the Labour Party was in power in 2001, 2006. Look at the investment in human capital in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Then let's talk about legislation. Which government has passed the strongest and the toughest legislation as far as guns and gun crimes are concerned? Now let's go forward and talk about now. We have recruited, or in the process of recruiting, more than 200 bodies in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Look at the United Workers' Party's record as far as recruitment is concerned. Look at interference. Let's talk about interference in the police force. Look at the statements made by United Workers' Party ministers of national security as far as the police force is concerned. And right now, so they have this sanctimonious raising their hands as if they just came from heaven. They did not. Look, what minister has ever said in my government that if I'm committing crime, I'll do it on my own? We want to forget that. Why are we trying to rewrite history? The United Workers' Party's history on crime is clear. And sometimes, when I see a serious topic like crime, it's being bastardized by people with straight political motives. It disturbs me. Because no prime minister, including the prime ministers of the United Workers' Party, would ever want a country where there is crime or where there is murder. No prime minister. So when we try to politicize it, and I heard one of them said, anybody that gets killed in this country, I must take the blame.
Mr. Not to cut you short.
No, I don't want you to cut me short. I'm telling you. No prime minister would ever want a country where there's crime. No prime minister. I said without any fear. Any prime minister.
In Antigua, however, there are reports from law enforcement that with the spate of killing of young men, it's as though it's a dying generation.
I guess you can blame me for that too.
How would you?
I guess you blame me for what the Prime Minister of Antigua said about happening in Antigua. You can blame me. You see, because in our quest for political power, especially now, when we seem to forget who calls elections, we want to. This crime situation is a regional situation of great concern to every prime minister, and it should be to every politician. The United Workers' Party cannot tell you one thing they can do that will ensure that the level of crime is decreased. They can't say. We can try, as we are trying. But there's a deeper question that we have to study. And to bastardize it and play politics with it and go on the radio every day and say somebody killed, is going to get killed, and blame the Prime Minister will not help. So we have to understand that using crime as a political weapon may have short-term benefits, but it will live to haunt you as it does all the time when you get involved in things that are untrue. So my position is clear. Zero tolerance towards crime. We have a number of social interventions. It's the same United Workers' Party that criticized me when we gave the donation to the Rise movement when they dealt with the crime intervention in Vieux Fort Sauve, to the Ubuntu movement. The same United Workers' Party. The same United Workers' Party that did it. So what do you do? What I will do? I'll continue to be focused. I'll continue not to get disturbed, and I'll continue to work for the benefit of the people of St. Lucia. That's all I'll continue to do. So I can tell you from now that I am not fazed by the name calling. I'm not fazed by what you think is ridicule. I'm not fazed by the lies. I'm not fazed by the misinformation. My mission is to improve the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia. My history is clear. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. But I'm not fazed, nor I'll be disturbed. So you can tell them for me. The name calling, the insults, the lies, the propaganda will have nothing on Philip Joseph Pierre. I'll continue to work for the people of the country, and when the people of the country have decided that my time is up, I will gracefully go, because I would have done my share to improve the quality of life of the people of this country.
Good morning, sir. I wanted to ask you about the potential for an environmental tax, but let's stay on this for a moment. I want to ask you, let's put yourself in the lead of the opposition shoes for a second. Let's
I
say,
can't do that. And I prefer not.
let's say hypothetically, you are a prime minister who lost 88% of your seats in parliament. So, and you're facing a government that has made policy into politics, that is touching people one demographic group at a time. How would you, have you no sympathy for the devil, sir? How would you handle that situation? How do you handle to be in such a tight corner where you have 2 seats out of the 17, and the government that it has the constitutional majority is using policy to touch people one demographic group at a time, one after the other? I mean, I had a conversation with Neville Snack about this, and I remember, but it's a long time ago when I talked to Louis George about it. People who were in that same situation, what would you do in that situation?
What I would do, I would work hard, I'll speak the truth. You see, politics and lies, people assume that politics and lies go together. That's not true, you know. Politics, you must have trust. And this is why they always complain. One of them said, I'll be a sick star general, sick. I mean, right now, you're talking about people's health, you know. That is where we've reached in the politics, and no one complains about that. But if I laugh, I'm not supposed to laugh. I'm not supposed to have a joke. So I make a joke about the population. Some hypocrites in there will make a fuss about it, but that's for another show. You see, what they want to have a spirit of hatred in this country, a country that is bitter, a country where people are at each other's throats. So in that case, the Prime Minister can have a sense of humor. You understand? They must stretch it. That's what they want. They want a country of division, and this is where the opposition is going. The opposition wants a country of division. So my answer to your question is the opposition is hoping for chaos. The opposition is hoping for chaos. They are hoping that they can create enough division in the country to get the country annoyed, to get a country in a situation where there is no peace. And this is why they herald crime. This is why they refuse to condemn the criminals. They have refused to condemn the criminals. They condemn the Prime Minister instead. Instead of condemning the criminals. So the opposition strategy is to create chaos. So when something doesn't work, you shift it. So the U.S. has an immigration policy. The U.S. has a tariff policy. You blame me. So when something does not work, so the opposition has understood, and the time will come when I want you to look at our manifesto promises and look at what we've done based on our manifesto. I want you to take it off. Take it off. And we're going to come back. You see, because we've kept very quiet. We've allowed the noise and the propaganda and the misinformation and the slander to go on for the whole period of time. We haven't said anything. But our history, and this is why they cannot attack us on our performance.
They have actually invited you to a manifesto challenge, sir, to go through the manifesto to see how many of your promises.
If I invite you to the moon, what will you tell me?
How are we going to get there?
Exactly. Next question.
The environmental tax. Are we considering?
No.
No. We're not considering environmental tax?
No, not now.
I think the World Bank group.
Not now. We're not.
They propose it at a very high short-term priority.
Yeah, well, they have the World Bank advises, and the government
Decides,
yeah.
What do you think about the performance of Mr. God?
Mr. Who?
The commissioner.
Oh, the commissioner. The commissioner, but he has a very structured way of doing it. His first thing was his crime plan. Then he's got now, he's using the technology. He'll be unveiling soon. You see, Jason, these things take time. You understand? These things take time. We did not inherit, you know, sometimes it is really baffling how we have so much short-term memory in this country. We pretend as if these things just started. We pretend as if this country was in a situation where it was perfect. And all of a sudden, it just decelerated. These things take time. The police force has had issues for a long time. Remember the late Sir John Compton when he dismissed 2 police officers on the radio? You see, we want to reinvent history. So the police force's problems are deep. They won't be changed in 4 years. What are you trying to do? We're trying to have a new police recruit, a new caliber of police. This is why you see the caliber of recruits is increasing. We're trying to have polygraph tests for every recruit, every policeman that comes into the system. Hopefully, we can have polygraph tests for 100% of the police force. But these things take time. Re-engineering the police force will take time because it's a problem that existed for a long time, not under this prime minister. It's been there for a very long time. It's a slow process, but I can tell you we've started and we've seen results. Losing evidence, very, very concerning. Very concerning. Not the first time. That doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean it's right. But let's not pretend it's the first time I'm the one who keeps the evidence at my home. I don't.
Well, sir, some people can see he's admitting that they're losing evidence, which is a qualitative difference from the police force.
Hiding. Yes, exactly. What the guy says is we made a mistake and we're trying to correct it. I mean, the United Democratic Party has gone so far and stooped so low to insinuate that I am responsible for the death of the police dog. Where do you reach? Where do you go again when you reach that level? But you know what happens? We're going to get more dogs. You're going to get more dogs.
Is that a promise?
Yes, the promise. Once the dogs are available, you're going to get more dogs. Next.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. So beginning August 20th, the U.S. has announced that for 2 countries, specifically Malawi and Zambia, nationals applying for B1 and B2 business and tourist visas would be required to pay a bond. They are stating that they will be adding additional countries to that list, and countries with citizenship by investment programs are those under review. So my question is, what safeguards or measures are being put in place to ensure our CIP does not put St. Lucians at risk of being added to this list?
Now, Miss, this is a very good question, but you should. It's a question. You want to tell me what? Okay, let me tell you what we've done for us in the CIP program, not Belarus. Let me remind you that there has been absolutely no international attack on St. Lucia CIP program. We had attack by individuals. We had cases brought by individuals, not by internet. So let's just start clearing that. Secondly, we are members. We have a situation where all the 5 CIP countries have decided that it's going to be uniform legislation. So legislation for the CIP is going to be the same CIP legislation. It's going to be every island in the 5-island group. Secondly, there's going to be a regional regulator who will regulate the CIP program in all the 5 islands. Thirdly, the involvement of the JCR, which is another layer of due diligence, is going to be intensified. Fourthly, we are looking into ways through the legislation to see if there can be some level of the applicant visiting the territory for some length of time. So we are working with the other 5 countries, not individually, because St. Lucia is not the only country with CIP. And let me tell you that Argentina is just going to have a CIP program. Let me tell you that there's a CIP program in Turkey, there's a CIP program in many countries. So when we speak, we pretend as if St. Lucia is the only country with a CIP program. Again, that is because of convenience. We try to pretend the only CIP programs in St. Lucia. But I'm saying that we are working together with the 5 CIP countries to have a regional regulator, to have regional uniform legislation, so the programs can be, all of them can be on the same basis. And most importantly, St. Lucia's due diligence has always been strong, is going to be strengthened. St. Lucia was the first country with a statutory board for its CIP program. But St. Lucia can't control U.S. policy. We're in no position to control U.S. policy. U.S. policy will be U.S. policy. So we cannot determine what the U.S. government will do. We can't. What we can do is we can work together and we can ensure that we make our CIP program as transparent, as accountable as possible. But we have no control over U.S. policy.
So I saw some reports this weekend that given the conditions in the United States of America, more Americans now are looking for that CIP passport. And that that the Caribbean is number 1 on their list for it. Does that attract more negative attention from the Trump?
You know, I tell you something, the negative news on the CIP program is, most of it is a lot of, people are wishing, People are wishing. The fact is, there are issues. But let's not wish for the worst. Let's not wish for the worst. Because the CIP program will affect all of us. If the revenue from the CIP program is slowed, every government will suffer. There are countries in the region that more than 50% of their revenue comes from the CIP program. So why are we wishing for that to collapse?
Are we poisoning ourselves to exploit the fact that Americans are running away looking for that different passport?
Well, you see, again, you're speaking of American policy. I cannot determine American policy. What I know is that there's been a focus in the United States, a focus of America for Americans. That's a fact. That's a fact. And nothing you can do about it, nothing I can do about it. That's American policy. Yes.
So, Karen Nelson, St. Lucia Times. I wanted to ask about the free movements in CARICOM. Recently, earlier this year, there was an update with 4 countries. Can you tell us what is holding St. Lucia back in terms of, I know we can move our skilled labor workers.
We're not holding St. Lucia back. There was an option to look at it in 3 years. St. Lucia's opted for the 3-year option.
And moving on from that, earlier this year, a committee was put in place and mandated to review the work of the Constitutional Reform Commission and make recommendations for a new constitution and a revised status for St. Lucia. Any updates on that one?
Its work is chaired by the Speaker of Parliament, and the jury is still out on whether St. Lucia has to be a republic or whether we have to go to a referendum or not. The jury is still out on that. But as you may recall, there was a report from a constitutional committee, you may recall, and that report is being looked at by a bipartisan committee, which is being chaired by the Speaker of the Parliament. It's something that is work in progress.
Does that make any material difference to us?
In terms of?
Whether we're a republic or we stay a constitutional monarchy, does that make any material difference to us? Whatever.
It's a difference in that you've finally taken off, you've broken all the shackles of colonialism. If you know, it's in Grenada now. And you know what? In Grenada now, yesterday, the opposition and the government in Grenada got together to stop swearing to King Charles. In St. Lucia, we criticized the visit of the president of Nigeria. I just want you to look at the two.
Will St. Lucia take that step?
I don't know. Let me tell you again. In Grenada, the opposition and the government have got together to say, let us stop swearing to King Charles. in St. Lucia, the president of the most populous nation in Africa is visiting St. Lucia, but the opposition criticizes it. Just sleep on that. Next question.
And last week you said the government would stand by the court's ruling on the burglary law, in essence saying that we had no choice. However, a similar ruling was overturned by the government of Trinidad last year, saying that the High Court did not have the jurisdiction to repeal the law on same-sex acts. For people here who may have similar sentiments on how the system works, can you just provide some clarity on that?
I never go into areas I don't know about. I won't speak about the law. I don't. I think the Attorney General is the best person to question on these laws. I don't go into. I can't. The Attorney General can give you all the legal situation. I don't know. I didn't even know what you said about you. I didn't know that. I don't know everything, you know. And I don't pretend to know anything. You know, there are some people who pretend to know everything, and the actions show that they knew nothing. Last question, questions?
Yes, thank you, Prime Minister. Just to follow up on where she left off, there was no public consultation as this case went to court. Can you enlighten us as
Public
to...
consultation on a case brought by...
Well, at least...
On a case brought by a private person?
At least notification that the government would
by
be...
a private person? Everybody takes me to court every day. I mean, you want the government...
But considering...
You want public consultation on something done by a private body.
At least notification from the government.
That the private person has done that?
Considering that the outcome could have gone either way, as it has gone the way that we have seen.
I'm making no other comments on this topic. Nothing else. Done.
Can you indicate as to why?
I am making no other comments on that topic.
The government did not put up a defense
I am
on
making
this.
no other
Can you
comments
inform
on
us
that
as to
topic.
why?
I am making no other comments on that topic. You called me
I could
Attorney
only
General.
hear the Prime Minister at any
I
given
am
time. Thank
making
you.
no other comments on that topic.
I can only hear the Prime Minister, but you are the Press Secretary. You're shouting over the Prime Minister.
He already answered your question. He said,
I was seeking clarification from the Prime Minister, but you are shouting over him.
From the Attorney General, that's what he was saying.
But you're shouting over him. Pardon me, Press Secretary. Am I free to continue, Prime Minister?
Yes, you can.
Thank you very much. Earlier, I'll move on. Earlier, you made mention when you were discussing the crime situation, you made mention of the separation of powers and your respect for it. I want to ask you two questions that seem to be lingering, and it seems to be dogging the St. Lucia Labour Party as well as your government. One would be the inclusion of Richard Frederick in the cabinet, considering all that the St. Lucia Labour Party had labelled him as being a crime boss while he was a member of the United Workers' Party. I don't think you've ever really cleared that up. Can you once and for all address this issue? Is the Labour Party and your government comfortable now with who Richard Frederick is? And can you enlighten us as to whether he's no longer a crime boss as deemed by the St. Lucia Labour Party when he was an opponent? Secondly, still with the housing minister, he has on occasion on his talk show issued instructions to the police. And we have seen those instructions in some cases come to pass. Can you tell us, what is the separation of powers there? Do you tolerate this? Is this something that meets with your favor? Can you give us an explanation?
Lisa, once I saw you,
please?
I knew that was a strategy discussed in the UWP boardroom. The strategy is you attack Richard Fredericks and tie him on the Prime Minister. That strategy is well known, so I expect that. I mean, that's
Prime Minister, these are legitimate questions,
No.
and I hope you're not inferring what I think you're inferring.
And I'm giving you a legitimate response. I knew that discussed in the United Workers' Party's boardrooms and discussed with the surrogates and the public relations people was to attack Richard Fredericks and tie him around the Prime Minister. So what is happening this morning may be a legitimate question, but it's very coincidental. It's in the same line with the United Workers' Party attack.
You brought
Let
up
me inform
the
you
issue, sir.
that Richard Fredericks was the same Richard Fredericks that was there when the United Progressive Party were in government. The same Richard Fredericks. There is no other Richard Fredericks. Richard Fredericks was the same, and I repeat myself, it was the same Richard Fredericks who was a minister in the United Workers' Party government. It was the same Richard Fredericks who was on the show every night when the United Workers' Party were in power. The same Richard Fredericks. The same one. There's no change. At that time, the United Workers' Party and its leader never saw it fit to take any action against Richard Fredericks. Never saw it fit. If the United Workers' Party saw it not necessary or not convenient for them to accept Richard Fredericks or to have take any action against him. Richard Fredericks ran elections as an independent and he won. Richard Fredericks is a member of the cabinet of the St. Lucia Labour Party. This is a fact. I'm saying to you, if at that time the United Workers' Party found nothing to take action against Richard Fredericks, this time I have seen nothing to take action against Richard Fredericks.
But the history would show that he was indeed ejected from
Richard Fredericks
from the
will
party
tell you
following the allegations by the St.
Richard
Lucia
Fredericks,
Labour
no,
Party.
all right. Okay, well, that made it easier. He's a private citizen. That made it very easier. So it made it easier, right? He was rejected. He was a private citizen. The government was in power. They had the entire state apparatus. They did him nothing. Because again, we seem to be forgetting. You see, listen, I know you've been around, not for a very long time, but you know the history. And many people know that. Richard Fredericks attacked the United Workers' Party from the time you say he was ejected until 2021. The government had the entire state apparatus. They did nothing with him. Why, at the time, when he was not clothed with any ministerial office, and when he was the same Richard Fredericks, making the same accusations every night on the show, why didn't the United Workers' Party take action against him?
So you're saying that they should have been the one?
So, Lisa, this is your final.
No, leave her. Lisa is okay. Don't protect Lisa. I can talk to her. When you see, let me tell you why I can speak boldly like that. I have nothing. I have no skin in the game. I have no skin in the game. My life is very simple and clear. I have no skin in the game, so I can speak boldly. I can speak out. A lot of people tell me sometimes I speak too much to you all, but I can speak boldly because I have no skin in the game. I have nothing. What I'm saying to you is that the United Workers' Party took no action against Richard Fredericks. That's a fact. They took no action against him, but they want me to take action against him. And they were there before me.
So you no longer believe the things that the SLP said
I
back
am
then?
saying that the United politicians say a lot of things. The United Workers' Party also accused him, and they did nothing with him. That's not the first time Richard gets accused. They are pretending like Richard Fredericks came down from somewhere. I wouldn't say it was heaven or hell. That's what they are. All in a sudden, they made Richard Fredericks a topic. All in a sudden, this is crazy. This is the guy who was on the United Workers' Party platform with John Compton. When he came on the platform, Compton said, the United Workers' Party supporters said, we want him. Compton said, you want him, I will give him to you. That's the history. Ask Rick, my friend. Ask him. He knows that. Compton said, you want him, I will give him to you. Richard Fredericks was single-handedly the biggest critic of the Labour Party between the years 2002 and 2006. Richard Fredericks led the campaign. that made the present Prime Minister Minister of Tourism by appointment. That's the same Richard Fredericks by appointment. The present political leader. So is that history. And and that's history. That's the same Richard Fredericks, the same one. That suddenly they want me to do what they did not do from 2006 to 2021. Right. And that's when they had that, they did nothing with him. But suddenly he's just become the person that Philip J. Pierre must do something. I'm saying to you, if there is any evidence that any of my ministers is involved in criminal activity, I will take action. I've said so before, so many times before, and I look at you as a journalist, I respect and tell you frontally, if there is any evidence that any of my ministers are involved in criminal activity, I will take the necessary action.
I just want to move on quickly and ask about the investigation into the missing evidence as informed by the Commissioner of Police. Have you been briefed on how far this investigation has reached?
The Commissioner is on leave, actually.
So there's no one conducting
Yes,
leading the investigation?
I have not been briefed. What I know is that the commissioners told me that they've taken that very seriously, but I've not been briefed on the details of the investigation. But it is a very serious situation. Again, it's a 2018 situation. You see, again, we're forgetting these things. That didn't happen yesterday, Lisa.
The crimes happened
Yes.
in 2018,
Yeah.
the disappearance announced in 2025.
It's not 2025.
Do
so
you
nobody
have,
knows.
were you given a timeline?
No, I was not.
As to when the police discovered
No,
that
the
was...
commissioner informed me the day before he went to the
So you have absolutely no details on this?
You see, Lisa, I have told you before several times, I told the press before, and the United West Party has criticized me. Operational matters of the police force are left to the police force. I have seen too many politicians get involved in operational matters of the police force.
But this is beyond operational matters.
Yes,
sir.
no, it's a listen to me. It's tragic and it's not acceptable that this happened. I agree. Whether I like it, no. Whether I condone it, no. Whether I think more must be done in the investigation, yes. As to the details, I have not been briefed.
And you're not curious about the details, sir?
If I... the details will be only for my knowledge. But what are my expertise in detection, in ballistics and things? What am I expertise?
No, but certainly you are the Minister for National
And he
Security.
told
And if I'm
me-
not mistaken, the Minister for Justice as well?
And he told me, and I'm told, that there was the evidence has disappeared and that they're leaving no stone unturned to find the remedy.
Did you give the
them.
police a timeline as to when to report back to you?
I did not give the police any time, but since he's told me so, I'll give him reasonable time so he can come back and report to the situation.
But he's on vacation until
I tell you
September.
something, so why is it so important that the police are not asked questions about their matters?
I believe there was a press conference.
Okay, well-
I was not in attendance, but
That's the question.
I'm asking you as the Minister for National Security and Justice.
You should be in the attendance. My job is not for the operations. I don't carry out
But, sir,
investigations.
you would
All
agree this is not operational.
If the police ask me for an investigator to come from abroad, I'll make it available. I'll make the resources available. But I don't get involved in the day-to-day. You see, because I don't have the expertise to get involved in day-to-day police matters. I don't. Who has? Good for them. I don't. And I won't profess to have. I do not have the expertise or the knowledge to get involved in day-to-day police operational matters. That is left solely to the police.
If Jason could bear with me, I just have two other questions. The one has to do with I'm sorry, I think all of my other colleagues had extended times with the mic. I would appreciate the courtesy. Thank you very much, Madam Press Secretary. I appreciate the kind gesture. I haven't been here in months. St. Lucians who have overstayed, as my colleague Mira Montut posed in her question concerning the visa restrictions or policy by the U.S. as announced on Monday last week. So you've dealt with the CBI aspect, the CIP aspect. For St. Lucians who've overstayed, have you been able to put a finger on the number of St. Lucians who've overstayed their visas in the U.S., if there are any? And if so, has the government been called upon to provide some assistance? And is the government dealing with any situation like St. Kitts, where the Foreign Affairs Minister has indicated that they do have students who are finding difficulty in obtaining U.S. visas and even in returning home? Can you just fill us in on that?
No, well, the last question, no one has reported to me that they're having any difficulty in extending. In fact, somebody told me only yesterday that they got a letter from the U.S. saying, send your passport up for your visa. So I don't know about that one. In terms of St. Lucia overstayed, the U.S. own record says that St. Lucia is one of the lowest level of overstays. If you look at the U.S. records, I think St. Lucia is at 0.02 or 0.2%, which is lower than. In fact, I think it's low as compared to other CARICOM countries. This is what I know from the U.S. What I know, I've said to the U.S., any person who is overstayed or is involved in criminal activity, St. Lucia will accept them gladly because they've broken the law and we are a law-abiding government. So if you go into the U.S. and you overstayed, the consequences are for you. And when you come back to St. Lucia, you'll be treated like a St. Lucian. This is our position. We don't tolerate illegality of any means.
I just want my final question. Thank you so much for your patience. On the sanitary napkins that will be coming, you indicated that the beginning of the school term or the school year. I'm not certain because I walked in when you were discussing that. Is there do you have a breakdown as to, is it the government who's making the supplies available? Are you doing it in partnership with a company? And where are the sanitary napkins being sourced from? Do you have a specific supplier, in-country, out-country? And I'm asking that as well.
I'll show you. We'll be like the vaccines, eh?
Well, that's good because now a lot of officials are apologizing to the public for having forced them to take the vaccine. So that's a good thing to know, Prime Minister.
We're not paid
but I'm also asking for...
What I'm saying to you is that the money has been transferred to the Ministry of Education and the normal procurement will take place. Again, you don't like me to say that, but I'm not involved. My job was to get the money across to them, and the Ministry of Finance indicated to them on the 4th of August that the money was available, so they and the procurement policies.
So we should look forward to some good quality napkins, sanitary napkins.
That information and quality I have not. Listen, I'm glad you can laugh, you know. I'm glad we can laugh at that. Because, you know, in this country, we engendering too much hatred, too much.
That's all.
Yeah, we must stop that. We must stop that. I mean, the people will have their say. Why are we so much hatred every day? Stop that. Let's relax.
You know, I have nothing but love for you.
Yeah, we have a lovely country. We have a lovely country. Like Miss Morton, I've seen you laugh first time for the morning.
But
okay.
and this is it, Prime Minister, on the sanitary napkins. You spoke of removing the VAT, and yes.
In fact, you go to Parliament Tuesday to remove the VAT permanently. That's done for a year, permanently now.
We are still facing very high prices, up in the $40 up to $50.
Imported.
So this has to do with the importation.
Only importation. What we're doing is that, that actually is a very good question. The Ministry of Commerce is forming a team to go out in the supermarket and look as if there's not price gouging. We're doing that because we have to. Because you see, contrary to what is said, the zero-rated items, the 70 rated items that were zero rated. I noticed we were mixing exempt and zero, but we've gone through that already. The zero rated items, the price to the consumer ought to be down by 12.5%. So what we're doing, the Ministry of Commerce is forming teams so we can look at whether that 12.5% is going somewhere else and not benefiting the consumer. But as I said before, the Chamber of Commerce has worked very closely with us in this matter, and I see no reason why they should be involved in anything that they did not discuss with us. But we are monitoring that situation. I can tell you that for a fact.
Thank you.
Okay, see you. Have a good... And by the way, finally, before we go, the hurricane season is on, and I want you, members of the press, I beg you to tell people to take the necessary precautions, like cleaning their drains, trimming their trees, because we never know when a hurricane strikes. Thank you.
Our final speaker will be Honorable Alfred Prosper, Minister for Agriculture, and he will speak to us on hydroponics.
Bonjour tout le monde, good morning everybody. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and to just speak on the importance of a new technology in agriculture, hydroponics. It is basically a system where you use water.
Sorry about that. You have to go. You're back.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was my tie.
Not your time.
Good morning again. I'm here as Minister of Agriculture to speak on a new technology called hydroponics. This is a new farming system that requires the use of water and nutrients, so there is no soil attached. This system is one that is used in very limited space. So your backyard, your garage, you can use that space to set up systems like this. And just recently we established a new hydroponics facility at the Union. We launched, to be exact, and that was part of funding that came from the government of Guyana. And that was really to help us boost production of our leafy vegetables. So lettuce, cauliflower, and a range of other leafy vegetables. We are hoping that we can boost production of these items or commodities to reduce the imports of them. But what is really critical about this new technology is really about attracting young people, youth in agriculture, women in agriculture, because we believe this is the direction that this country needs to go to ensure that we meet our food security needs. So here is it that we have this facility, and currently we have 3 students who went through Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and they are actually employed at the facility to really help boost the production of those commodities. I want to see a lot more young people get some level of training via this facility, and also to encourage those young persons who are doing the agricultural projects, the SBAs, to use the hydroponics facility to be able to get that interest in agriculture. As I said, the older persons in agriculture, the senior persons are on their way out, and we really need to attract the young people. And we can only do that by introducing new technology and innovation. Now, a simple system like this, anyone can set it up in the backyard. Anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 can facilitate the construction of a simple system, a hydroponic system, that can provide economic activity, economic benefits to unemployed individuals, but at the same time helping address our food security issues, helping reduce our food import bill, and ensuring that we have a sustainable food production system that will allow all St. Lucians to be able to get the foods in the right amounts, nutrition, viability, etc. So I'm very impressed with this facility. It's just one system in Union. We are hoping that the Youth Economy Agency will set up a facility, some funding available to encourage more young persons to really get into hydroponics. Just recently, the Persons for Disabilities, they launched a very good system, but it was aquaponics. It's another system that uses the fish waste that feeds or supplies nutrients to the plants. And this is the direction to go because it avoids the use of soil. And you know, our young people, a lot of them may have this issue of getting dirty. But it's a very good system that I want to encourage as Minister of Agriculture to have our young, unemployed youth and women to venture in because there are tremendous long-term benefits to be derived, not just by the young people, but as a country as a whole. I'm sure you would recall the 25% reduction by year 2025, and we have added as CARICOM what we call 5+, because we have not been able to achieve the 25% for many reasons. Climate change, lack of transport, movement of goods between, within the OECS countries. And it has really not allowed us to reach that objective, that goal, that target. So we've added 5 more years. And so we're hoping by 2030, we can achieve it. In line with this, my ministry is putting together what we call a food production plan for 2025-2030 that would coincide with the target by CARICOM. We are hoping that this will cause more of our farmers to increase the production of leafy vegetables and a lot of what we should not be importing in those quantities that we are now. The 7 Crops program funded by the Taiwanese is in its 2nd phase, and we are targeting 7 key crops like lettuce, cucumbers, watermelons, cabbage, tomatoes, sweet pepper, etc. And we are hoping that we can tie these 2 initiatives to really make a dent, to see a great reduction in the amount of food that we are importing into St. Lucia. From my figures, it's over 200 million US per year. And I think as a country with over 5,000 farmers, we can do better than that. And this is why the government is putting this food production plan together, where we are hoping that we can use our farm labor program, which is in the tune of $600,000 now. We will provide farm labor support to those farmers. We will be providing inputs to those farmers because the cost of fertilizer, the cost of all of those inputs that the farmers need, it is causing a serious challenge for them. So we will give them the support to do the site preparation, the fertilizer to ensure we get the yields that we require to reduce the imports on those commodities. So I just wanted to mention that this is a new technology and innovation that my ministry is getting into and really pushing to ensure that we attract as many young persons as possible in St. Lucia to get into the agricultural sector.
Mr. Minister, can you maybe shed some more light on the farm labor program? Because one of the things that we're getting out of the field is that, one of the things we're seeing out of the field is that the amount that we're paid to farm laborers is so small that what we're looking at is a farm labor shortage. How do we go about solving that problem as we aim for food security?
Now, that's a very good question. We know the problems that our farmers face with farm labor. Our young people seem not to think that farm labor is the way to go. Now, one reason is that, again, the dirt. I don't want to be dirty. Secondly, they want to work very short hours. They want to get to the farm at 7, and by 11 they want to go out. I mean, the farmer needs to get value for money. But that is a major problem. And I remember having a discussion with the Minister of Agriculture of Dominica at an OECS Ministers of Agriculture meeting. And they've established a policy approved by the Cabinet of Ministers in Dominica to bring in farm labor from outside of Dominica. This may be the way to go, because if the farmers continue to be challenged by not being able to get the labor requirements on the farm, it will discourage them, and it would force them to leave the industry at a time when this industry is very critical to the development of this country. So I agree that we have a problem, and I know we have a problem, because even me, I struggle to get farm labor. But my farm, the good thing about it, I have 3 workers working with me on a weekly basis. But I treat them even outside of the daily payments or wages that I give them. So I would bring the food, I would bring the drinks to encourage the one to come every time. But not all farmers can afford to do that. But we have a real serious farm labor problem in St. Lucia, and that's why under the Food Security Initiative last year, we were able to assist more than 300 farmers, and we had 115 workers assisting them. Obviously, that will result in a massive reduction of the
overhead
expenditure, which would mean that they can now invest in other things that will really encourage or result in a much increased income or revenue for them. We have approved for this financial year 600,000, and we are going to use it to provide further assistance, especially to the larger farmers, Christopher Cox, and those people like Mr. Rambali in Soufre. These are large farmers who are suffering severely as a result of unavailability of labor. And so we as a government, my ministry, will provide that level of support to them to ensure we continue to increase our food production and to reduce on our food import bill.
On the issue of hydroponics, there was some gear, some equipment we were supposed to get from Guyana.
Well, that's what we do.
Have we received that?
We received it, yes.
We have?
Launched this system last month, the 11th. So if you go to Union, you'll see lettuce and a range of other leafy vegetables. And the yield, the thing about the system is that it produces very high yield, and your production is a lot faster than if you go directly in the soil. So there are tremendous advantages. There are tremendous benefits, and you can generate an income much quicker than going directly into the soil. Simple system that you don't need much space to establish.
In the interest of time, I'll be taking 2 questions.
I can take all the calls, The questions, I love it. I enjoy it.
Can I ask a Denry question?
Oh, feel free.
If you understand what I mean. We took the pulse down there in Denry South, and we're getting the feeling that there is a breakaway, a faction, a splinter from the United Workers' Party, led by a former United Workers' Party MP, who have decided that they are not in the mood for supporting Bentil Emile. They would rather support Alfred Prosper. We would like to hear, can we get some more details about that from you?
All I want to say, I am the parliamentary rep for Denry South, like everybody know. Any support towards me or the St. Lucia Labour Party, I will embrace fully. I remain focused in impacting the lives of the people in Dennery South. That is what I was elected for. And I believe, I'm convinced, I am doing that well enough. Election is not about popularity. It's about numbers. On election day, I have to ensure I get one more than my opponent, and I can guarantee you I will get more than one more when the election is called. That's all I want to say.
Oh, so can you not confirm that there is a former United Workers' Party
I cannot
MP?
confirm that. I cannot confirm that. I cannot confirm that.
Yeah. Good day, Mr. Minister. Just referring to the agriculture, sector and the youth, getting the youth involved. I think it must have been sometime last year or a year or a couple of years now that you had this program involving young people who were given access to technology, to technical assistance. What became of this? Because to me, initially there were about 20 young persons, maybe from the south, who were involved in some program involving giving young people land. Would you be aware?
I think you were talking about the YAP project.
YAP.
Well, that was a long time. That was long before my time, where we identified a number of young people and we were supposed to give them lands. I remember we identified some lands in Lakai when I was still in forestry. We also identified some lands in Choiseul. That is, I can't remember exactly in Choiseul, but somewhere in Choiseul, and we established some greenhouses. We facilitate some young persons getting loans at a particular bank, but I don't know what happened. It started well with about 5 or 6 of them, but afterwards it discontinued because I think it was a result of lack of interest and unavailability of market and a number of challenges. And when I came in very early, I told my PS that we cannot have 5 or 10 facilities, greenhouses to be exact, sitting there underutilized. And under the World Bank project, we conducted an assessment of those greenhouses, and what we saw was needed was the basic plastic to actually recover the facility, but we had tremendous difficulty from the manufacturer to get the exact sizes and so on, because there's not a simple greenhouse like what we have. It was completely different, and you had various cuts in terms of the plastic that we could not find anywhere in the Caribbean except for that manufacturer, which we were told does not exist anymore. But the whole idea was to really encourage and attract young people in agriculture, because really and truly, if we do not get or put measures in place to get our young people attracted to agriculture, we are going to have a big problem in the mid to long term, because the older farmers are leaving the sector. And if we don't encourage the younger persons to come in, we are going to have a major gap that is going to affect our food production. It is going to impact our food security in a negative way, and it's going to continue to cause an increase in our food import bill.
That sounds like a really big problem. That sounds like you have
It's one of the major problems that I face as a minister. How quickly we can get the young persons. Because I remember attending a meeting in Costa Rica, and we had 4 persons, young persons from each of the 9 OECS countries. And they were actually discussing with the ministers of the OECS, Minister of Agriculture. And there were a number of concerns like finance, lack of finance, access to land, training, incentives by the government, a range of them. And a number of them, they were real challenges. I mean, it is one thing to encourage young people to be in agriculture, but if they're having difficulty accessing particularly government lands, that's a major problem. So this is why my ministry, a long time ago, when I was in forestry, we were working towards what we call a land bank. And the whole objective of the land bank was to identify abandoned lands, lands that were no more productive, and we placed them in a pool where we would have been able to give access to young people or persons who want to venture into the sector to actually work. But it has not become a reality, and I'm in the process of revitalizing it and ensuring that we can make it happen. Because we know there are lands, vacant lands. When you drive through Cul-de-sac and Roseau, and there are a lot of abandoned lands, but a lot of those lands are tied to family, where you may want to give access to him to occupy it. Another family member will say, no. And these are those land issues that we face in St. Lucia that is sad, but it's a reality, and it is really a challenge for young people.
Just quickly, you mentioned the involving the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. We know the TVET and the sectors is agriculture, technology, but you know how influential would be TVET for the kids to transition from TVET to the Sir Arthur Lewis College, where agricultural science used to be a big deal in schools, and how much more emphasis could be placed on agricultural science now that you have, you know, technology and you have all agro-processing involved?
That's another very good question. We must start from the level of the school. And this is why the TVET Sustainable Agriculture Program in Mabio Valley in Denver North is critical. Because you want to begin preparing the young people from very early. I had the opportunity to address over 200 students who participated in a summer camp in Denver last week, Friday. And I encouraged them to get into agriculture. And I told them why agriculture was important, how you can make money from agriculture. And I told them where I started as a young man, who went to that very same school where we had the closing ceremony. And I told them, hey, I'm a minister of agriculture now. And I said to them, it's because I had an interest from very early. I believe if we have programs to prepare the young people very early in life, they will get to that level. Because that is why we put in the facility like the hydroponic systems. And we have to establish a program within the ministry, Sir Arthur Lewis, so that they can move to the next level soon after leaving school. Because that's what I did. When I left secondary school in Denver, I went straight to the Union College of Agriculture in 1984, where I spent 2 years doing agriculture. From there, in 86, I went straight to forestry. From forestry, I went to the ECIAF, that's a forestry school, School of Agriculture and Forestry in Trinidad, and I did my certificate, my diploma. From there, I went to the Guyana, Eugene, Guyana, and I did my degree. So once you have the various levels there to prepare the young people from very early, I see a bright future ahead for our young people.
Mr. Minister, it sounds like we're on the path to creating a lot of owners, but is there no way out of this farm labor thing except importing farm labor? Because if we have a whole bunch of, the way the education system is going in St. Lucia, providing more access, will definitely deprive us of people that we can use as farm labor, because that's just not paying enough.
I knew that question. I knew that was coming.
That is just not paying enough.
Because
so we're headed in the direction of creating a whole bunch of farm owners, and we have no labor. Like the country is just too successful for farm labor.
But the labor is there. Because when you go and you walk the streets, you see the young people there. They are available, you know. But the question is, why are they not interested in working on the farms? I can go on the block.
Because it's not paying enough.
I don't think so. Because if you're giving a laborer $60, $70 a day, I find, because the laborer does not have to take bus, because it's right there in the community. He doesn't have to take a bus to go to the farm. Walking distance, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, half an hour. $60, $70 should be enough for a person to work on it. Because before they were doing it for 40 and 30 when we had bananas. But why would you want to stay on the block and not want to take advantage of $60, $70? Why would you not want to do that? That's free $150 every Friday, Monday to Friday. That is almost 1.5 a month. Yeah? Almost 1.5 a month. I know people live in Vieux-Fort to drive to ride to Castries to get, that was before we had the minimum wage, $1,000. Just think about it. That's just something to think about.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. You spoke about the land bank a little earlier on, and I just want to ask you, with regard to Guyana, maybe sometime last year, year before, when Guyana assumed the chairmanship of CARICOM, the President Ali, in his address, he made the offer of making lands available. I think Belize, to some extent as well, would have said something of the sort, because, you know, there are vast lands down there. Making lands available for other CARICOM territories to utilize, to subsidize the farmlands. Have you been in any technical meetings, ministerial meetings, where that proposal was ever discussed?
I have heard of that proposal, and I just want to add that Venezuela has also made available to CARICOM countries 10,000 acres of land. And my take is that we have quite a number of abandoned lands in St. Lucia, and I, at this time, do not see the benefits of St. Lucia going to Guyana, going to Venezuela to invest. Because if you drive down the road, you will see the vacant lands that were once on the bananas. What we have to do is to find innovative ways to get those lands back into production. And this is why we are coming with the food production plan, where we are going to target certain farmers, we are going to target certain crops, we are going to provide the financial support, the incentives for the farmers to want to go back into converting those abandoned lands into more productive lands. I see opportunity for persons like this guy who's, as an example, this guy is actually purchasing all the paper, Baron Foods. I see Baron Foods as a company that's struggling to get hot peppers in St. Lucia. I would have liked to see Baron Foods taking advantage of the lands in Guyana, the lands in Venezuela, to convert those lands into high production pepper plantations. So they have a source that is available to them that they can actually maximize on. But I believe St. Lucia, at one time we had over hundreds of acres of bananas. Now our acreage of bananas is now just a little over 2,000. So we have a lot of abandoned lands that, if we are serious as a country, and I know our farmers are, once we provide the incentives, we can get back into full production of those abandoned lands, particularly those that were on the banana production before.
You mentioned that we have 5,000 farmers. So how many? What is the?
We currently have about 250 banana farmers, but we have over 4,000 vegetable farmers, based on our registered list of farmers. It may be more, but based on our registered list, we have almost 5,000 farmers in St. Lucia.
Okay, thank you for that breakdown. And the incentives, maybe you could enlighten us, because I'm not certain what it is, whether we have reviewed the incentives package recently. Is that a way to go to incentivize young people to come in, as well as some mechanization, getting some modern equipment on island for the farmers to help them out, maybe to lessen the onerous, that burden of the hard labor on the farm.
Yes.
So in terms of getting the incentives regime up to scratch, to see if we can tackle it on that end. Any plans on that?
In 2022, we reviewed the Agricultural and Fisheries Incentives Act. And that act, any import of any agricultural produce or agricultural equipment receives duty-free and excise tax. Every Monday, I take memos to the cabinet for agricultural incentives for the farmers. That is why you see the FAR. And revenue loss to the government as of 2024 was millions of dollars. I can't remember the exact figures. That is millions of dollars lost in revenue. And currently, we are doing an assessment of the impact of the incentives on the sector. So we want to be able to show that our revenue loss, and that's our taxpayers' money. So when we give a farmer an FAO or a vehicle that he was supposed to be paying $60,000 for, and he only pays a little over 100, that is revenue lost to the government. But we want to see how impactful it is, whether it's a positive impact or negative impact. Because we should not just be allowing farmers to receive the incentives, but not looking at the benefits and impact it has on the populace. So we are hoping soon from now we'll come up with a document that will tell us whether it merits that or not. Secondly, we added a number of items that were not on the previous act. So like hooks, lines, and a range of items that particularly the CMOS farmers are using that were not part of that. And so the incentive program is there, but you have to be qualified to receive the benefits of it. So that is, and I think it augurs well for the sector, because any young person wanting to get into, let's say, fish production, livestock, hydroponics, they can come to the ministry, submit a proposal to the ministry, and they can request incentives that can be approved by the cabinet to start with. A basic proposal can qualifies, this person can be qualified from a basic proposal, not even actually doing the farming yet, but if you can submit a very good proposal indicating what you want to do, how you're going to do it, what equipment you require, blah, 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 you will be qualified to receive the incentives even before you start the physical work.
I just have one final question. You mentioned we have over 200 million US dollars for our importation.
Yeah, that's about 500 and something EC, 500 and something million EC. That's very high. And CARICOM alone, I can't remember the figures, but just recently, the CARICOM food import bill is extremely, extremely high. So it's not a St. Lucia problem only or St. Vincent problem. CARICOM on the whole has an extremely high food import bill.
I was just wondering how much of that amount is attributed to the imports by the hotel and accommodation sector as well.
Well, we know the
because
hotel.
We know they
and that's another
actually.
very good question. The hotel has to ensure that it provides food for its guests. And if the hotel is not or is experiencing difficulty getting food from local suppliers, it has no choice but to import. And this is why I hope, and we've had a discussion at the level of Ministry of Tourism and Agriculture to see how much we can encourage the hotel to buy local. But you have to understand the hotel has a commitment to its guests, and they can't wait on him to provide breadfruits. And on the day when the breadfruits are supposed to be getting to the hotel, you are told that it's unavailable. But I really wish, and we are doing the best we can to help reduce the imports of food by the hotel, especially to encourage them to buy more from our local farmers. But there is another problem with our local farmers wanting to sell to the hotels, or some of them, because complaints are that the hotels, some of them, I'm not sure which one, I'm not pinpointing any hotel, some of them takes a hell of a long time to pay the farmers. Now imagine a poor farmer with, say, an acre of vegetables. you've spent so much time, your labor, your cost of production, etc. And when you are ready to get your income, you have to wait months. It does not allow you to get the required funding or funds that you need to get back into production because you are actually waiting months to get your pay. So I do hope that we can do better than that. I believe we can do better than that. But it would really be good for us to work with the hotels to ensure that we encourage them to buy more local produce.
Maybe we can do tariffs.
What?
Maybe we can do some tariffs.
That is a good idea, but that's something we have to discuss.
One quick question.
I wanted you to ask a question. I'm saying, how come I'm here and I'm not getting a question from a young person?
Okay, so just in regards to the insurance scheme for farmers, so in the past we've seen other insurance schemes, even in the private sector as well, that have not, they just discontinue basically. Can you explain what has been put in place with this particular model to prevent some of the old challenges that have persisted, to prevent failure of this current scheme?
Well, just about a month ago, we launched an insurance scheme for our banana and plantain farmers. You're aware of that, right? And it was basically coming from funding that was provided by the Prime Minister of $1 million. And we engaged a few insurance companies, and we were able to come up with a good mechanism by Grace Kennedy or something like that. We are starting with the banana farmers because they are the ones most vulnerable when we have natural disasters, especially winds. But we want to continue to provide coverage to the entire sector. But it cannot be the sole effort of the government to provide the funds. What we want to do is to begin a sensitization program to engage the vegetable farmers, the livestock farmers, the fishers, the agro-processors, the CMOS farmers, everybody in the sector, to make them understand how important it is for agricultural insurance. But we want them to make a contribution so we can expand the program as much as possible. So if, let's say, every farmer who sells to the marketing board or Massey or the hotel, they agree to give us, to deduct, for example, 5 cents from every pound of what they sell. That is money that can be added to what the government is already contributing to expand the program. As I said, you're talking 5,000 farmers. If 5,000 farmers are all affected by a natural disaster, we want to ensure that those farmers benefit tremendously by this insurance program, and that it would not be the government every time to take resources from the people or resources that could be used otherwise to help compensate them. The insurance program that we have for our banana farmers, if we have any natural disaster anytime in this hurricane season, an assessment will be done of the damage, and the insurance company will provide the government of St. Lucia an amount based on the assessment that the government will distribute to the farmers that are affected. As I said, it's just the beginning. I think it's a wonderful initiative for our farmers, because if we are saying to them that we want you to work with us to improve our food production and to do the best we can to ensure that we are food secure, we must provide them with the level of support that they need to ensure that this happens. And that's why I'm very proud of the government I'm part of. I'm very happy the minister, the Prime Minister, and the cabinet ministers understand the importance of agriculture. And we have no difficulty providing the level of support to our farmers, our fishers, and everyone in the sector to ensure that we are food secure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.